In this lesson, we're going to look at rounding decimals. So if we look at the rules for whole numbers, the rules for decimals are the same. We first of all have to decide which is the last digit that we're going to keep, and we leave it the same if the next digit is less than 5. Some people call this rounding down. And if the next digit is 5 or more, we round up. So we increase the last digit by 1. And in this course, we'll be rounding to the nearest 10th, 100th, or 1,000th, which means to 1, 2, or 3 decimal places. So let's take a look at these examples, and some of them are a little bit tricky, so I'll walk you through those when we do them. So 7.36, rounded to the nearest 10th. I'll just show you a little trick that I do is I put a little line after the number where I'm rounding. So the nearest 10th is that first decimal place, the first number after the decimal, so that's that 0.3. Then I look at the next number, and that number 6 is 5 or higher, so that means it's going to raise the 3 by 1, so my answer will be 7.4. If I look at the next example, 7.34, I'm going to put that line in there first, look at the next number. 4 is less than 5, so I'm just going to drop it, and I'll end up with 7.3 as my answer. I'm going to just scroll up here a second so we can see the rest of them. So 0.5293 rounded to the nearest 10th. Well, 10th again is still 1 decimal place, so my number is going to end after that 5. I just look at the next number. I'm only going to look at the 2, not the 9, just the 2, and decide, well, that's less than 5, so I'm going to drop it. So my result will be 0.5. Oops. The next one, we're starting with the same number, but we're going to round to the nearest 100th. Well, to the nearest 100th means I'm going to put my line after the second decimal place and look at the third. Well, that 9 definitely is going to raise the 2 up 1, so that will be 0.53. Okay, so we just increase the digit by 1, so the 2 becomes a 3. In the next one, we're looking at the same numbers, the same original number, but now we're rounding to the nearest 1,000th. So that's the 3 decimal places. So we just look past it and we see, well, that number is less than 5. So we're going to drop it. So we end up with 0.529. And our next question, we have 4.196 rounded to the nearest 100th. It wouldn't hurt to press pause, think about what you would do, and then check your answer. And you can do that for all of the videos. So if I round it to the nearest 100th, I'm going to put my line after the second decimal place. That 6 raises the 9 up, but how do you raise the 9 up? In one of these cases, because these are a little bit tricky, I end up looking at that 9 and thinking instead about 2 decimal places. And I think about 19. If that has to go up 1, it's going to go to 20. So this becomes 4.20. And it's important not to drop that 0. If you're asked to round something to the 100th, you do need to show 2 decimal places. It shows that you're being precise to that level. And our final example, 0.263 rounded to the nearest whole number. Well, that means we're going to put our line there. So the 6 raises the 2 up by 1, so we end up with 3. And that's the end of that lesson.